Good stewards use Lent to change from caterpillars to butterflies. In our gospel passage today, something extraordinary. Jesus, fully human as well as fully divine, but while he was down here, he appeared to everyone as just fully human. Jesus, fully human as well as divine, took Peter, James, and John up the mountain, and he transfigured. He showed himself to them purely as the Son of God, and they were blown away. Now, my sisters and brothers, I can pretty much guarantee ain't going to happen to us. We're not going to be motivated by seeing Jesus, much less Jesus as fully divine. We got to do it all on our own by faith. Now, God's going to give us all kinds of graces. He's giving you graces tonight by coming to Mass, all kinds of help. But we need to do it by faith. But we got to do it. We can't keep putting it off. This is the time of year to do it. Lent. To do what? To change. And not just to change, we can change from good to bad. We've got to change from good to better, from better to better yet. We've got to grow. That's what life is supposed to be all about. Growing, becoming increasingly better. And there are 2 times of the year that the church gives us to put special effort into doing that, and they are Advent and Lent. Since we're in Lent, let's focus on changing and growing. 1983. It was a really consequential year for my Kettenry. One, I was promoted from being news director of the television station that I work for in Nashville to being president and general manager. Overnight, my salary doubled. Overnight, I had access to big bonuses. Overnight, I had a lot of status. Overnight, I was the boss. But that wasn't the change that God wanted for me, that He wants for any of us. I changed another way in 1983. I made a retreat, and I remember being in church one day for daily Mass, came early to pray, and it was dark, and I heard the voice of God. Now, not as we speak, but there was little doubt in my mind this was God speaking to Mike Kettenry. And God said, Mike, I want you to change. Not from being news director to president of the television station. I want you to change because I want you to take seriously me when I say you're called to serve and not be served. And you're going to be tempted as president to be served. Don't let it happen. So I started a spiritual journey that 18 years later, after my wife Khaki died, that led to me lying down on an altar at St. Louis Cathedral and becoming a priest. We're all called to do some big change in our lives. If there's one thing God never wants to hear from us is, I am who I am. That says I'm comfortable, I'm content with who I am. I don't plan to grow. And if I don't plan to grow, I can't get to heaven. God says, never tell me I am who I am. always say, Lord, help me out here. I want to change. I want to grow. Once upon a time, Sir Full of Himself. And he was called Sir Full of Himself because he was. He was full of himself. He was cocky. He was conceited. Sir Full of Himself never served anyone. He just called on others to serve him. Well, Sir Full of Himself heard that a princess was locked up, jailed at the top of a tall tower, and he thought, well, if I can beat the evil witch who put that woman at the top of the tower, that princess, I'll be famous. And I might even get to be king. So he started thinking about how he was going to get up there. And he came up with a pretty good plan for himself. And then he called on Barney the caterpillar to climb that tower and tell the princess that he was coming. She could feel good because he was coming to rescue her. Well, Barney the caterpillar was pretty much like Sir Full of Himself. He was always angry, always malcontent, always whining, complaining. But he needed a job, so he took it. And he started climbing that tower, and it was brutally hot. And he complained all the way up about the heat. It was very windy, and he had to kind of grip onto the rock of the tower to keep from being blown away. And birds came by frequently, and he feared for his life. They were looking for lunch. But he got to the top. And he said, Princess Goodheart, come on out. It's Barney the caterpillar. And the princess came to the tower window, and Barney said, wow, I sure hope you do have a good heart, because you ain't much to look at. Princess Goodheart felt insulted, but she did have a good heart. So she said, Barney, I give you great credit. I'm pleased that you climbed all the way up here. Do you have a message for me? And he said, I do. Sir Full of Himself says that he's going to come to rescue you. And it won't be too long, maybe a month or two. And Princess said, well, the evil witch told me that if what I hear about Sir Full of Himself is true, he won't be able to rescue me, because I can be rescued only if I'm kissed on the lips by a man of equally good heart. And I have heard that Sir Full of Himself doesn't have a good heart. But I hope I'm wrong. Tell him I hope he gets up here and rescues me. Barney went back down, went and told Sir Full of Himself what he had been told. About 6 weeks later, Sir Full of Himself began looking for Barney the caterpillar because he wanted to go up the tower. And he wanted Barney to show him the way up. Couldn't find him. But all of a sudden he was told by a whole bunch of people that Barney the caterpillar had changed. He had become Barney the butterfly. And that he had changed not just physically, that's not important, he had changed in his heart. And he was flying about the kingdom, helping people, serving people. So Sir Full of Himself tracked down Barney the butterfly and said, you've been up there before, can you fly up and I'll watch you and I'll watch the best way to go up. And Barney the butterfly, because he was flying now, went up real quickly, and he got to the top, and Princess Goodheart came to the window, and Barney the butterfly said, now he had a good heart. Princess, you're such a good person. You have such a wonderful heart. So full of himself is going to follow me up. I sure hope he's got a good heart, because I hope he kisses you on the lips and you are freed. The princess saw the goodness of Barney the butterfly's heart, and she leaned over and kissed him. Barney flew down, waved at Sir Full of Himself as he was coming up. And as Barney was coming down, Jesus was in heaven talking to his dad and said, you know, Dad, that was such a beautiful thing that Barney the butterfly did. He changed. His heart has become so good. He's been serving so many people, not thinking of himself, thinking of others. Why don't we allow Barney the butterfly to become a man? And God the Father said, good idea, son. Make it happen. And it did. And Barney the butterfly immediately changed into a man. And he climbed as fast as he could up that tower. Got there before Sir Full of Himself, who kept looking in a mirror at himself, slowing down and stopping. And when Barney got to the top, Princess Goodheart looked into his eyes and said, you know, I don't recognize you, but I do recognize your eyes. I can see into your eyes, and I can see that you have a good heart. And Barney kissed her, freed her from her prison. They climbed down the mountain, got married, served people all of their lives, constantly looking for ways to change and grow. And when they died, they lived happily ever after in heaven. My sisters and brothers, we are all called to change. Not just to change, to grow all of our lives. And Lent is a time to do it in a special way. And if there's anything that God dislikes as much as I am who I am, it's I'll get to it tomorrow. No. Get to it this evening. Get to it today. Think about one thing in your life that you would really like to change, that you know God would want you to change, and immediately begin the process of changing and growing. My sisters and brothers, we are all called to be good stewards. And good stewards use Lent to change from caterpillars to butterflies.